everyone, Angela here. Life can be challenging. Trust me, I get it. However, I have learned we can either view the opposition or value the opportunity. Ponder on the problem or praise the potential. Focus on the situation or find the solution. Despite the current circumstances you're going through, I invite you to join me today as we embark on a grand adventure to discover the reasons why it's a good time to be you.
Here's the encourager herself, making every day a good day, Angela Henderson.
Welcome, everyone. Welcome. We are so glad to see you today. Thank you so much for investing your time with us. Now turn to your neighbor and say, it's a good time to be you. Yes, and it is. You know, we are so honored today to be able to bring to you an amazing story. The quote says, "Be the change you desire to be in the world." You know, a lot of times we go around saying somebody needs to do something about that. But have you ever considered for just a few moments that you might be that somebody? Are you willing to do what it becomes to be that somebody? Well, we have a story today of a young man that, you know, had some challenges as a child and also as a teenager. And then as he became a young man, he gave his heart to the Lord and he decided to follow the call of God on his life in order to be that somebody, to make a change in his community. So don't go away. When we come right back, we have the precious honor of having Reverend Dewey with us, and he's going to share his story of being the change. So don't go away. We'll see you in a few. As a leader, you are a broker of gifts. So whether you are a professional, a business owner, or a ministerial leader, I would love to accompany you in transforming your ordinary staff into an extraordinary team through leadership development, team building, and personal discovery. You will learn the amazing gifts, skills, and talents that each of you have and know how to bring them together in order to do great things. So reach out to me at angeladhenderson.com and let's begin your amazing adventure today. And remember, it's a good time to be you. Welcome back, everyone. Now let's give a warm welcome to Reverend Rob Dewey. Reverend Dewey, come on out. It's a good time to be you. We are so glad to have you with us today. Oh, it's good to see you as well. Have a seat. And wow, you have quite an impressive resume. And so
that means I'm old.
Well, you know what? We only get better with age, right? Kind of like fun. Cheese and fine wine. Exactly. I'm having fun too. So thank you so much for sharing your time with us today. And I'm just very honored that you would invest in us and in our audience and our viewers to just kind of impart some of the things that you learned in your life and what you're doing to make our world a better place today. So why don't you share with us a little bit about your life and your childhood?
Grew up in Memphis, and the parents got divorced when I was 2, kind of typical of society nowadays.
Yeah.
But it certainly wasn't then. And then at age 5, both my mom and dad were remarried.
Okay.
And each had 3 siblings on each side for me. And grew up in a typical church home where we went to church every Sunday, and from the liturgical background at Calvary Episcopal Church in Memphis.
Yeah.
And then in 10th grade, after I flunked 9th grade, I had ADHD, still do, ADHD.
Yes.
And so I don't like to sit much, so I can handle this 30 minutes. But,
yes.
So ended up going to, flunked 9th grade, went to a special school down in Fort Lauderdale. So we had small classrooms and was able to get through the academics. But if it wasn't for tutors in high school and college and seminary, I wouldn't have gotten to where I am now. So thank God for those tutors.
Awesome. Now, did you find, even outside of the struggle, you know, of the ADHD yourself, did you find it hard even in the relational area with other friends or making friends growing up in school?
It was always a challenge, and then for some reason the parents put me in a different school. It seemed like every year, different school to try and make it better, I'm sure.
Yeah.
But for me, the church was a refuge place.
Yeah.
And then through Young Life in 10th grade, out in Colorado at one of their camps, I got introduced to Jesus Christ.
Oh, how amazing.
To be a real difference in my life and for what I have based my life on.
Yeah. You know, I grew up in a pastoral home, and my father, again, as we've shared many times before, the viewers know, was in the Marines and then became a minister. And we moved around a lot. And one of the things that I found was that I could adapt easily to where we were moving to. And that really helped me even in my adult life, as well as I had to work through some issues because we were always moving around. And so sometimes not feeling like I connected much with people, sometimes felt like the third wheel in relationships that were already established or already evolved. But as an adult, it really kind of, I see where it helped me to actually be a little bit more connecting with people, because I've seen a plethora of things and got to know, a variety of people throughout my life.
Well, I think that our history, if that we can not do anything with it and help folks, and that's not what God wants us to be about.
Yeah.
But He wants to take our history, some of the depression that I felt in 1985.
Yeah.
So that has helped me in being the chaplain with the police and the FBI.
Wow.
To be able to talk to as a hostage negotiator.
Wow. Wow. Well, we are getting ready to take a quick break, and when we come back, we're going to dive into a little bit more of how this evolved and happened for you in being this negotiator and this involvement with the police. So don't go anywhere. We'll be right back. Hey everyone, Angela here. Just wanting to invite you to share your story with us. You know, we all have times in our lives when it just seemed like it was impossible. But then there was that moment of breakthrough. And just maybe your story was meant to be shared and imparted to be able to encourage and uplift others. Well, we would love to be able to give you that opportunity. So how about send your story into us at itsagoodtimetobeYou@gmail.com for consideration. We would love the opportunity to be able to bring you up on stage so that you can do what you were designed to do. And that was to be an encouragement to those around you. You know, sometimes you just can't make this stuff up. But when it happens, we want the world to know about it. So again, reach out to us at itsagoodtimetobeYou@gmail.com and send in that story for us to consider. And remember, it's a good time to be you. Welcome back, everyone. We are so glad that you're with us today. We have Reverend Rob Dewey, who is just sharing with us how he decided to be the change. And it rather took place at a younger time in your life. As you shared with us, you had given your heart to the Lord at the age of 10, and so things began to turn around. So what did that look like? Or rather in the 10th grade, sorry. So things began to kind of turn around for you. What did that look like?
In 9th grade, 10th grade, it was a very lonely time for me. Mm-hmm. And we would call it depression now. Back then, we didn't have a name for it almost.
Yeah.
And almost PTSD.
Wow.
From an early age of my parents fighting and things like that. And so, it's interesting to look back as an adult now and look at those things, and you can label them. And I think that God wants us to label things so that we can better deal with the opportunities that we've had in the past, and the challenges in the past and the opportunities that now were presented.
Awesome. So in the 10th grade, were you about 15, 16 years old? It's kind of beautiful. Again, just when we look at how God has ordained our lives, He's ordained our footsteps. He's a God of order. Everything about Him is. And, He's even a God of numbers where everything is significant. And so when I think about you being in the 10th grade and you were giving your heart over to the Lord, there was a turnaround. The number 10 represents law and order, and how He established that in you. It was almost like, okay, now your heart is in order. You are receiving more of my law. My word is becoming alive in you. But it was also to get you ready to actually work with the law in the natural sense and in the governmental sense. And so that's pretty interesting. And we're going to tap into that here in just a few minutes. But how then, when you turned your heart over to the Lord at that time in your life, did you immediately know, okay, now I'm going to go into ministry, or now I'm going to go do this? Or How did that become, known to you?
When I was in eighth grade, we had a Episcopal priest come talk to us, Don Mowry, in Memphis, and he said, at least one of you in this group will end up in the priesthood and ministering.
Huh.
And
Now, was he just basing that on like averages or data, or just he just said
he just said it? I don't know. He died a couple of years ago, but before he died, I said, that night you were talking to me.
Wow.
And so ever since then, I've always been kind of a nerd. And so, it's I always felt that was God's call. And it was hard for me to get there because of the ADHD that I've had in my life. And so went to a couple of small colleges and then took a little time off to be a police officer. And then ended up working for the Billy Graham Crusade.
Wow.
And so,
now, in the Billy Graham Crusade, were you working as an officer or were you there as a minister?
Neither, as a paid employee.
Okay.
Mrs. Graham was my Sunday school teacher.
Oh, wow.
Ruth, when I was at Montreat College.
Yes.
And so that's where I was a police officer. So I knew them through the years. And so when I graduated from college, I didn't have a job. So I ended up working for the Memphis Crusade and also the Nashville Crusade.
All right.
And so right in the end of 1979 type thing. So I ended up working as one of the behind-the-scenes people.
Amazing.
And it was a great time for me.
Well, it's almost like God set you up for that servant leadership. And you were getting some training and working in the Crusades. You had a heart for ministry. You had gone to school for that, coming out and not really having a place of employment per se, but you went there first. And I think that God used that as extra training for what he had for you, and what he had you being positioned for. And when we set out to serve, he positions us to actually lead. And so that's pretty awesome that you shared that. So with that being said, then, when did you actually then get involved in your full-time ministry or ministry opportunity?
I was ordained 35 years ago
in
Memphis. And in 1990, I was at St. John's Episcopal Church on Johns Island here. And I started riding with some of the police officers. Then they started dropping by the church for some counseling. And I was single at that time. And so I had a lot of time to do it on Friday night, Saturday night. So I would go out with them. And then I went and God laid it on my heart. I didn't even know it existed, but to start a full-time chaplaincy program. So I got my bishop together and the Chief Reuben Greenberg and Sheriff Al Cannon, and we met, and I shared with them a thought that I had, me doing this full-time and raising my own money for the mission that I feel God called me to. And I said, what I need from y'all is the blessing to do it, and then a car to get to the scenes. So I have been busy doing that for 32 years in the area.
Well, when we come back, we're going to take a quick break, but when we come back, he's going to share a little bit more with us as to how all this evolved and some of the exciting things that he's been a part of in just being a chaplaincy to our area police. So don't go away. We'll be back in a minute. Have you ever wondered where I got the phrase, "It's a good time to be you"? Well, it wasn't because life has always been a bed of roses, but it has been rewarding. Life has many different seasons. Some are more challenging than others. And sometimes we kind of get caught or stuck in an old season when there's a new season that's waiting just ahead. I want to encourage you to untether yourself from the old season so you can move forward in the new things that are waiting for you. So check out my new book on AngelaDHenderson.com and take a journey to discover the many reasons why it's a good time to be you. Welcome back, everyone. We're so glad to have you with us today, and we're especially happy to have with us Reverend Rob Dewey, who is just sharing with us his story of being the change and helping our men and women in blue. And so we kind of left it off a little bit where you felt a call to reach out to our officers. So what kind of sparked that inside of you? And share with us a little bit about what that was like.
Sure, thanks for the question. It's I love open-ended questions.
Yeah. We can go many places there.
Being a police officer for a couple of years back in the 70s, I've always had a heart for folks that are wearing the uniform, police, fire, EMS. So in 1990, I saw a need here in the Low Country of South Carolina, and so I talked to a couple of folks and got their blessing to go forward with this idea. I think there were a lot of people that said it wouldn't happen.
Can I ask you this? When you said that you saw a need, what was something that drew your attention? Was it a specific incident or a moment, or was it just a plethora of stuff that was happening in the community?
I would say it was back in the 1990s. It was just some things where I felt that the police officers needed somebody to talk to.
Yeah.
That was available besides a psychologist,
Right.
and that came from a spiritual side of the house.
I love it.
So we still, certainly respect the psychological side of the house.
Right.
I'm married to a child psychologist, so it's good that she's a child psychologist to deal with me. So I just felt that was a need that, and the suicide rate amongst first responders is very, very high.
Really?
We have for every first responder that's killed in the line of duty, we have 4 times that many that take their own lives.
Oh my goodness.
And that's held true here in the Charleston area. Right behind the Slager Scott shooting, I had 2 sergeants with the Charleston Police Department that committed suicide.
And see, we don't hear a lot about that
No,
side
you
of
won't.
it. We don't.
But we need to know that, and I encourage churches to have a First Responder Sunday where you can honor the first responders and their families.
Wow. So you saw this need then through just things that were happening locally in the area. And so you began to develop this. Now, was this just something that was divinely deposited in you, or has it been a work in the making? And just, what has that been like?
I didn't know if this type of ministry even existed. Mm-hmm. So I started doing it, and then I found out that there was a guy in Charlotte that was paid by their police department to do it. And so I learned some things from him, and then I learned from a fellow in Sacramento some other things. I flew out and took a sabbatical in 1996 to see how he was doing things out there. I knew that God wanted us to get, and wanted me, I can't speak for everyone, but wanted me to get out of the 4 walls of the church and get out there and get dirty. Mm-hmm. And so that's one of the reasons that we've developed, and I guess we'll get to it in a few minutes, but the program at Charleston Southern University. Yes. One of our premises in making the donation that my wife and I have made is that the students will be expected to do internships and get out there and get their hands dirty before they graduate or get this chaplaincy degree that we've been working on.
Well, that is what ministry is really all about, and that's the example that Jesus set when he came to this earth. It wasn't that he came and just took up a seat in the synagogue and said, y'all come see me, but he was out and about in the marketplace. He was with the people. He was where they were doing everyday life. And yes, he was out getting dirty. Even people that were considered unholy that reached out to touch him, that didn't matter to him. He was there to make everybody's life better and to give people purpose. And I can also recall in my younger years feeling like I was called into a full-time ministry, and absolutely I was, but I was thinking that it was more within the 4 walls of the church rather than right there where I was already positioned. And the Lord had to teach me a lot of lessons too where that was concerned. And that's why to this day I say it often, I don't like just going to church, but I'm very passionate about being the church. And God wants more than just butts in the seats, guys. He wants us to be boots on the ground. And so he wants us to take what we learn from our gatherings. When we come together, we receive the word, we receive the message that has been prepared for us, but we don't just take it in our hearts and then go live life as we always do. But he wants us to go and make and be a difference in our world. And so I can remember that, and I can remember just one day sitting in my office within the facility at the church and just thinking, who's going to walk in here and ask me to lead them to Jesus? Nobody. And so, I ended up, walking away from the office setting so that I could be more community minded. So, beautiful story. So when we come back, then Reverend Dewey is going to share with us about this program that they've got started and that they played a big role in at the university. And we're going to hear a lot more about this and maybe even how you might be able to get involved. So don't go away. We'll be right back. Welcome back, everyone, and thank you as we are wrapping up our show for the day. And it's just been such an honor to have with us Reverend Rob Dewey. And Rob, you had shared with us earlier in the show about some bouts of depression that you had faced around 2015. Would you like to maybe let's share a little bit more about that situation?
Well, thanks for asking for my permission on that.
Yeah, I love it.
Yeah, I've had depression in my family, for one thing, through the years. So in 2015 was a tough time period. In September of 14, we had a police officer killed with an AK-47 west of the Ashley.
Wow.
So we tried to take care of his family and all the officers and dispatchers that were associated with that. Then we come into April 4th of 2015. We had a white police officer shoot a black suspect 8 times, and that was on a Saturday right before Easter. And so on that scene and dealing with the families on both sides of that traumatic situation. And then we had 2 sergeants, as I mentioned earlier, that committed suicide during that time. And we had 5 officer-involved shootings in May of 2015. And then in June, we had the Emmanuel Church massacre where 9 black worshipers were murdered. And so we were asked by the mayor, since we already knew the mayor, we'd been to practices and drills with their police department, the Charleston Police. And so they asked my group to be in charge of the Family Command Center that we use the embassy suites for. So right after that, I was exhausted. And then we had the 1,000-year flood.
Yes, I remember that, all of that.
So at that time, I took a month off just to try and regroup and sleep. And I had been on call 24/7 for 28 years. And it's so getting... My wife was in tears a lot of the nights because there wouldn't be a night that would go by that I wouldn't get at least one call out for a body found in the water or call out to Monk's Corner or something to that effect. So during that time period, I did get depressed, and I got some counseling and medication. And medication is good.
Yes, it is. You know what I always tell people, God gave man the intelligence and the ability to create and to create these medicines that can also help us be our best. And so so
that has been helpful for me. And so I ended up leaving the original ministry that I started, the Coastal Crisis Chaplaincy. But then I was sitting at home, and after about 2 weeks of sitting at home, I said, this isn't working.
So you only needed a 2-week break.
And I was able to take my pension from the church. So I got that. And so I wasn't worried about an income. I was worried about trying to still do something for the Lord. So I ended up contacting Helen Hill, who's in charge of the Hotel and Restaurant Association. And she said, what's going on? I said, I want to be your chaplain. No charge. She said, great. And so the next week, very sadly, we had a chef that was murdered downtown on King Street by one of the dishwashers. So, and then the SWAT team killed him, but the chef did not have a home church. So that was my first encounter, if you will, with being the chaplain for the food and bev. And so I ended up doing his funeral because he didn't have a home church. And then I did some debriefings with the employees of Virginia's and Rue de Jean, part of that group that knew the people that were lost.
Wow.
So, and then I have stayed as the chaplain with Isle Palms Police and Fire Department, and then I've been the chaplain with the Federal Drug Court for 15 years. And now, 3 years ago, Irv Condon, Judge Condon asked me to come across the street, so go from the federal side to the state side to be the chaplain with the State Drug Court and the Veterans Drug Court.
Amazing.
So it has provided me lots of ministry opportunity.
Yes.
So I've got about 5 chaplains who are helping me do this.
Wow.
You know, you can't do it by yourself. You can't be a lone ranger.
No.
So when I left the other group, we were up to a budget that we raised $500,000 a year.
That's beautiful.
3 unmarked police cars, and we had 40 agencies that we were the chaplains for.
Nice.
So it really grew. God blessed it, but then it was time for me to give it over and move on to something else, and for them to have a new director.
That is awesome. And so at this time, what is it that you find yourself doing?
I play pickleball every morning.
I love it.
And so I'm trying to, at age 69, I'm having fun. I'm doing that, and then I'm in court 3 afternoons a week.
Yes.
With some of the people that I wouldn't have thought to minister to.
Yes.
20 years ago.
Awesome.
But now I did one of their weddings recently.
Oh, how beautiful.
And sadly, I did one of their funerals about
Yes.
6 months ago because they overdosed.
So still loving on the people and loving on their families and the officers. That is amazing. Well, Reverend Dewey, what are some ways that people can get involved or maybe help adopt the programs that you have helped to start and be a part of?
Well, a couple of ways. I was very blessed in early 2000s to write 3 courses with the University of Maryland.
Yes.
So we have 3 courses on pastoring in crisis situations.
Beautiful.
That we've developed. And then we have recently started a chaplaincy center at Charleston Southern University.
Nice.
And so, I was blessed with some money that was given to us, and we don't have children. So now we have a lot of children at Charleston Southern.
I love it. I love that mindset. That is amazing. Well, that is great. Well, when did you realize that it was a good time to be you?
Different time periods, but I would say this moment, it's a great time to be me, and I'm just blessed to be here. And every day when I wake up and don't know what's going to happen, but I'm having a good time being me, and I wasn't having a good time being me 30 years ago.
Well, thank you so much for allowing God to use you to truly bring change to the community, and we are all the better because of it. How about at the count of 3, we let them know it's a good time to be you. 1, 2, 3. It's a good time to be you. Hey everyone, Angela here. If you like today's show, well, there is much, much more. So I invite you to watch us each week right here on your local CTN channel. And remember, it's a good time to be you.